Control your screaming brat or I'll have security remove you both from this aircraft immediately. The sharp crack of flesh meeting flesh echoed through the first-class cabin. Flight attendant Linda Parker's palm had just struck Monica Harris's cheek as she cradled her 6-month-old daughter Lily against her chest. The baby's cries intensified from the sudden violence. Passengers in nearby seats pulled out phones, recording what they assumed was justified discipline of an unruly traveler. Finally, someone with backbone, an elderly woman in pearls, whispered approvingly. Monica's cheek burned, but her dark eyes remained steady. She adjusted baby Lily's blanket with trembling hands, her boarding pass visible in her lap. Mrs. M. Harris with a special gold status code that Parker had ignored completely. The cabin fell silent except for Lily's soft whimpering and the click of recording phones. Have you ever been judged as a bad parent in public before anyone asked if you needed help? Parker straightened her navy uniform, her silver wings catching the cabin lights as she played to her audience. The slap had energized her. Finally, a chance to demonstrate real authority to the first-class passengers who paid premium prices. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption, Parker announced loudly enough for the entire cabin to hear. Some people simply don't understand appropriate travel etiquette. Murmurs of approval rippled through the cabin. A businessman in an expensive suit nodded toward Monica. Thank God someone's maintaining standards. These people always think they can do whatever they want. Monica remained silent, gently bouncing Lily to calm her cries. The baby's tiny fist wrapped around her mother's finger, a gesture that should have melted hearts but only seemed to irritate the watching passengers more. Parker pulled out her radio, speaking with theatrical authority. Captain Hayes, we have a code yellow in first class. Disruptive passenger with infant, refusing to comply with crew instructions. The radio crackled back. Copy that, Linda. How do you want to proceed? I'm recommending immediate removal before departure. She's already delayed us 8 minutes with this tantrum. Monica glanced at her phone. The screen showed 14 minutes until departure. And below that, a text notification, corporate legal merger announcement scheduled for 2 p.m. EST. All systems ready. She tucked the phone away before Parker could read the message clearly. Excuse me, Monica said quietly, her voice barely audible over the cabin noise. My ticket shows seat 2A. I paid for first-class service and I'd appreciate. Parker cut her off with a harsh laugh. Honey, I don't care what scam you pulled to get that ticket. People like you always try to upgrade illegally. I know every trick in the book. A young woman across the aisle, maybe college-aged, held up her phone, filming a TikTok. Y'all, this is insane. This flight attendant just slapped a mom with a baby. I can't even. Her viewer count was climbing fast. But the comments weren't supporting Monica. They were harsh, judgmental. Finally, someone disciplining bad parents. Why can't people control their kids on flights? That mom looks entitled AF. Flight attendant is a hero. Parker noticed the filming and played up her role. Ma'am, if you can't manage your child appropriately, I have every right to request your removal from this aircraft. Airline policy is very clear about disruptive passengers. Monica opened her carry-on bag to retrieve baby formula. As she did, a flash of platinum caught the light, an airline executive card tucked between diapers and bottles. The card was quickly hidden again, but something about its design seemed different from standard frequent flyer cards. Her phone buzzed again. This time the caller ID was visible to nearby passengers, Skynova Airlines executive office. She declined the call. Parker's eyes narrowed. Who exactly do you think you're calling? Your baby daddy isn't going to save you from federal aviation regulations. The insult hit like another slap. Several passengers chuckled. The businessman with the expensive suit spoke up. Miss, you're holding up 180 passengers with this drama. Some of us have important business to attend to. 12 minutes until mandatory departure, Captain Hayes's voice echoed over the intercom. Flight crew, please prepare for final boarding completion. Monica checked her watch, a simple black timepiece, nothing flashy, but if someone looked closely, they might notice the engraving on the back, to my brilliant wife, D.H. Parker was building to her crescendo. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you one final time to gather your belongings and deplane voluntarily. If you refuse, I'll have federal air marshals escort you off this aircraft. The TikTok live stream hit 8,000 viewers. Comments flooded in faster than the college student could read them, but buried among the harsh judgment were a few different voices. Something's not right here. Why is the mom so calm? That lady seems way too composed. Flight attendant is way too aggressive. A business passenger near the window opened his laptop and began typing rapidly on an aviation industry forum. His post was titled, "Witnessing Discrimination in Real Time, Skynova Flight 923. Within minutes, industry insiders were following the developing story. Parker pulled out her radio again. "Captain, passenger is non-compliant. Requesting immediate ground security assistance." "Copy. Ground crew is standing by." Monica spoke for the second time, her voice steady despite the public humiliation. "Ma'am, I understand you're following what you believe are protocols, but I'd suggest verifying my passenger status before taking irreversible action." "Irreversible?" Parker's voice rose with incredulity. "Lady, the only thing irreversible here is your behavior. You think because you bought an expensive outfit and got your hands on a first-class ticket, somehow you can disrupt an entire flight?" The elderly woman in pearls leaned forward. "Young lady, in my day, parents knew how to travel with children properly. This display is absolutely shameful." More phones appeared. The incident was being documented from multiple angles. Facebook live streams started. Instagram stories began uploading. The hashtag flight drama was beginning to trend locally. But Monica remained unnaturally calm. She wasn't arguing, wasn't raising her voice, wasn't making demands. Her composure was almost unsettling, like someone who knew something the rest of the cabin didn't. Baby Lily had finally quieted, seemingly responding to her mother's steady heartbeat. The infant's dark eyes looked around the cabin with the innocent curiosity that should have charmed fellow passengers. Instead, it seemed to irritate them more. 10 minutes, Parker announced with finality. "Security will be here in 10 minutes, and this situation will be resolved one way or another." Monica kissed Lily's forehead gently and whispered something too quiet for the recording phones to capture. But her eyes held a knowledge that made the smartest observers suddenly uncomfortable. Something was about to change. Captain Robert Hayes strode through the first-class cabin, his gold stripes catching the overhead lights. 22 years of commercial aviation had taught him to project absolute authority in passenger conflicts. "What's the situation here, Linda?" Hayes's voice carried the weight of Federal Aviation Command. Linda Parker straightened, energized by her captain's arrival. "Sir, this passenger has been disruptive since boarding. Screaming child, refusing crew instructions, and now she's being argumentative about deplaning." Captain Robert Hayes studied Monica Harris with practiced assessment. Young black mother, designer diaper bag, first-class seat, but his assumptions aligned with Parker's narrative. "Ma'am, I'm Captain Hayes. Federal aviation regulations require passenger compliance with crew instructions." The TikTok live stream exploded past 15,000 viewers. The college student filming whispered breathlessly to her audience. "The captain is here now. This is getting serious." Comments poured in. "She's about to get arrested. Captain looks mad. Bye, Felicia. Hope they ban her from flying." Monica adjusted baby Lily in her arms, checking her phone discreetly. 8 minutes until departure deadline. 8 minutes until what? Hayes demanded, his patience already thin. "Ma'am, whatever schedule you think you're keeping, it doesn't override federal aviation safety protocols." From the galley area, 2 federal air marshals emerged. Plainclothes, but unmistakable to anyone who knew the signs. Their presence escalated the situation from passenger service issue to potential security threat. Agent Collins approached cautiously, hand positioned near his concealed weapon. "Captain, what's the nature of the disturbance?" "Passenger noncompliance," Hayes replied curtly. "Refusing to deplane after crew assessment of disruptive behavior." The business passenger typing on the aviation forum paused to capture photos. His post was gaining traction among industry professionals, 200 shares, 923 comments growing by the minute. Parker sensed her moment of triumph approaching. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced over the cabin intercom, "we apologize for the delay caused by an uncooperative passenger. We expect to resolve this situation momentarily." The announcement triggered a wave of passenger frustration. Voices rose throughout the cabin. Just throw her off already. Some people have no consideration. I have a connection to make. This is ridiculous. The TikTok viewer count hit 25,000. Local news alerts pinged on phones across Nashville. Viral incident unfolding on Skynova Airlines flight. Monica remained seated, baby Lily now calm and curious about the surrounding commotion. Her composure was becoming almost eerie, like someone waiting for a predetermined moment. Agent Miller flanked Monica's other side. "Ma'am, we need you to gather your belongings and come with us voluntarily." "I need exactly 5 more minutes to resolve this situation," Monica said quietly. Hayes scoffed. "You need 0 minutes. This is a federal aircraft under my command, and you're creating a safety hazard." The elderly woman in pearl spoke loudly enough for the cameras. "Captain, I've been flying for 60 years. This kind of entitled behavior is exactly what's wrong with air travel today." Multiple passengers nodded agreement. The narrative was set: disruptive mother versus professional crew maintaining safety standards. But the business blogger noticed something others missed. His industry experience recognized subtle signs that didn't fit the narrative. He typed furiously, "Passenger shows 0 signs of actual distress. Too calm. Too controlled. Something else happening here." Monica's phone buzzed insistently. The caller ID flashed briefly: Skynova Corporate Emergency Line. She declined the call again. Parker's eyes narrowed. "Who keeps calling you? Your baby daddy can't override federal aviation law from the ground." The insult drew approving chuckles from nearby passengers. The businessman in the expensive suit raised his phone higher, ensuring he captured Parker's authority. 6 minutes until mandatory departure, Hayes announced, checking his watch. "Ground security is boarding now." Through the aircraft windows, passengers could see airport security vehicles surrounding the plane. Emergency lights flashed. The situation had escalated beyond simple passenger removal. The TikTok live stream reached 32,000 viewers. Flight incident was trending nationally. Screenshots spread across Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, showing the confrontation from multiple angles. Ground security officers boarded through the forward galley, their equipment jingling ominously: restraints, radios, cameras, everything needed for forcible passenger removal. "Ma'am," the lead security officer announced, "by order of the flight captain and federal air marshals, you're being removed from this aircraft. Please comply voluntarily." Monica looked around the cabin slowly, taking in the recording phones, the hostile faces, the overwhelming authority arrayed against her. Baby Lily gurgled softly, reaching toward the shiny security badge. "For minutes," she said quietly. Hayes's face flushed with anger. "You have 0 minutes. Officers, please escort this passenger and her child from the aircraft immediately." The security team moved closer. Passengers leaned forward, phones ready to capture the dramatic removal. The TikTok viewer count hit 38,000. But something in Monica's eyes made the smartest observers pause. She wasn't panicking, wasn't pleading, wasn't preparing to resist. She was waiting. Agent Collins hesitated. "Ma'am, if you have some kind of legitimate concern or documentation, now would be the time to." Hayes cut him off sharply. "We don't negotiate with disruptive passengers. Remove her now." Parker stepped forward triumphantly. "This is exactly why we have security protocols. Some people think they can manipulate situations with fake emergencies and social media theater." The cabin erupted in approval. Passengers applauded Parker's firm stance. Comments on the live stream celebrated the crew's professionalism. Monica kissed baby Lily's forehead and whispered something inaudible. Then she reached for her phone with deliberate calm. 3 minutes, she said. "Time's up," Hayes declared. "Officers, proceed with removal." As security moved to physically restrain her, Monica pressed a single contact in her phone and activated the speaker. The call connected immediately. "Hi, honey," she said softly into the phone. "I'm having some trouble on your airline." The voice that answered made Captain Hayes's blood freeze in his veins. "Which aircraft, sweetheart? I'll handle this personally." Hayes recognized that voice immediately. Every Skynova Airlines captain knew that voice. It belonged to the man who signed their paychecks. Monica's response was gentle, almost conversational. "Flight 923, first class." The crew is being creative with customer service. The phone speaker crackled with barely controlled fury. I'm Daniel Harris, Chief Executive Officer of Skynova Airlines. Everyone on that aircraft needs to step back from my wife immediately. The cabin fell silent except for baby Lily's soft cooing and the distant hum of airport ground equipment. Parker's face went white as understanding crashed down like a tidal wave. Hayes staggered backward, his authority crumbling in real time. The TikTok live stream exploded past 45,000 viewers as comments went absolutely insane. Plot twist. She's the CEO's wife. They're so fired. Holy. Security officers stepped away from Monica like she'd become radioactive. Daniel Harris's voice continued through the speaker, ice-cold and terrifying. Captain Hayes, Ms. Parker, I'll be reviewing this incident personally. And I do mean personally. Monica remained perfectly calm, gently rocking baby Lily as 180 passengers and crew members stared in shock. 2 minutes until departure, honey, she said sweetly into the phone. Cancel the departure, Daniel replied. We have bigger problems to address first. The woman they tried to remove owned the airline, and everyone had just watched it happen live. The silence in the cabin was suffocating. 180 passengers and crew members stared at Monica Harris as if she'd just revealed herself to be an alien. Baby Lily gurgled happily, oblivious to the corporate earthquake her mother had just triggered. Daniel Harris's voice continued through the phone speaker, each word carrying the weight of absolute authority. Monica, are you and Lily physically safe? We're fine now, she replied calmly. Though Ms. Parker did slap me in front of everyone when Lily was crying. The admission hit the cabin like a lightning strike. Passengers who had been recording suddenly realized they'd documented the assault of their airline CEO's wife. Phones trembled in guilty hands. Captain Robert Hayes found his voice first, though it cracked with desperation. Mr. Harris. Sir, this is Captain Hayes. There's been a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Daniel's voice cut through Hayes like a blade. Captain, I'm watching the live stream right now. 47,000 people just witnessed my wife being assaulted by your crew. The TikTok stream had indeed exploded to 47,000 viewers. The college student filming could barely hold her phone steady as comments flooded in faster than human eyes could process. The CEO's wife. Everyone's getting fired. This is legendary. Flight attendant is toast. Plot twist of the century. Linda Parker backed against the galley wall, her face cycling through disbelief, terror, and desperate denial. This has to be some kind of joke. She's just a passenger with a screaming baby. Ms. Parker, Daniel's voice carried deadly calm. You just called my wife just a passenger after physically assaulting her. Please continue. I'm recording this conversation for our legal team. The business blogger typing on the aviation forum stopped mid-sentence. His post had exploded to 2,923 shares as industry insiders realized they were witnessing corporate history. He deleted his original narrative and started typing frantically, breaking. Skynova Airlines crew assaults CEO's wife on livestream. Agent Collins slowly raised his hands, backing away from Monica. Ma'am, Mrs. Harris, we were responding to crew reports. We had no knowledge of your identity. Of course you didn't, Monica replied gently, adjusting Lily's blanket. That was rather the point, wasn't it? How passengers are treated when crew members make assumptions based on appearance. Hayes scrambled for damage control. Sir, Mr. Harris, if we could discuss this privately, I'm sure we can resolve. Daniel's laugh was harsh. Captain, 47,000 people are watching this conversation live. The time for privacy ended when your crew decided to assault my wife in front of an audience. The elderly woman in pearls, who had been applauding Parker's authority moments earlier, sank into her seat. Her previous comments about entitled behavior had been captured on multiple live streams, and she was beginning to understand the implications. Monica opened her carry-on bag and retrieved the platinum card she had hidden earlier. But this wasn't just any airline executive card. It was a custom-designed ownership verification with Mrs. Daniel Harris, first family embossed in gold lettering. She held it up for the camera still recording. The cabin erupted in gasps and shocked murmurs. Several passengers covered their faces, realizing their recorded comments would be linked to their social media profiles. Honey, Monica said into the phone. Should I mention the merger announcement? Daniel paused, and his response carried strategic calculation. Not yet, sweetheart. Let's see how they handle the next few minutes first. Parker's desperation peaked. This is impossible. I've worked for Skynova for 8 years. I would know the CEO's family. Would you? Monica asked quietly. Have you ever seen photos of Daniel's wife and daughter? Has the company shared our personal information with crew members? The question hung in the air unanswered, because the answer was obvious. Skynova Airlines, like most major corporations, carefully protected executive family privacy. Captain Hayes pulled out his radio with shaking hands. Ground control, this is Flight 923. We need to delay departure indefinitely. We have a situation requiring corporate intervention. Ground control's confused voice crackled back. Flight 923, please clarify situation. We show security response in progress. Hayes looked at Monica helplessly. She nodded toward her phone. Ground control, Daniel's voice took over, steady and commanding. This is Daniel Harris, CEO of Skynova Airlines. Cancel all security responses to Flight 923 immediately. I'm handling this matter personally. Copy that, Mr. Harris. All units standing down. The TikTok live stream reached 52,000 viewers. Local news vans were racing toward the airport. Hashtag Skynova scandal was trending nationally alongside hashtag flight incident. But the real shock came when Monica activated a video call on her phone. The screen showed a boardroom full of executives all watching the cabin drama in real time. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced to the cabin. Meet Skynova Airlines executive leadership team. They've been watching this entire incident unfold. The camera panned across the boardroom, showing faces of corporate officers, legal counsel, and federal aviation liaisons. Their expressions ranged from shock to fury to professional damage control mode. Daniel appeared on screen, a distinguished black man in an expensive suit, clearly accustomed to command. His eyes burned with controlled rage as he surveyed the cabin. Ms. Parker, he said, his voice carrying across the first-class section. You physically assaulted my wife in front of 54,000 witnesses. Federal law defines assault on an aircraft as a felony with mandatory prison time. Parker's legs nearly gave out. Mr. Harris, I didn't know. I was following safety protocols. Safety protocols? Daniel's eyebrows rose. Show me the regulation that authorizes crew members to slap passengers holding infants. She couldn't, because no such regulation existed. The business passenger who had been supporting Parker earlier frantically deleted his social media posts, but screenshots had already been captured and shared thousands of times. Captain Hayes tried one final appeal. Sir, emotions were high, mistakes were made, but surely we can handle this through internal channels. Internal channels? Daniel cut him off. Captain, this incident is being investigated by the Federal Aviation Administration, the Department of Transportation, and the Department of Justice. Internal channels are no longer an option. He gestured to someone off camera. Our legal team is already preparing federal charges: assault, battery, civil rights violation, and child endangerment. Monica spoke for the first time in several minutes, her voice carrying across the silent cabin. Daniel, should I tell them about the security footage? A new voice entered the conversation. James Porter, Skynova's head of legal, appeared on the video call. Mrs. Harris, federal regulations require all aircraft incidents to be recorded. We have complete documentation from multiple camera angles. The implications hit like a tsunami. Not only had the assault been witnessed by thousands online, but it was also captured in high definition by federal aviation cameras. Parker slumped against the galley wall. Her 8-year career was over. Her professional certifications would be revoked. Criminal charges were inevitable. But Daniel wasn't finished. Captain Hayes, in your 22 years with Skynova, how many discrimination complaints have been filed against your crews? Hayes's face went ashen. Sir, I don't have those numbers readily available. I do, Daniel replied coldly. 17 complaints in the past 5 years, all quietly settled, all buried by corporate. Today's incident ends that pattern permanently. The revelation stunned the cabin. Skynova Airlines had been covering up discrimination for years, and today's live-streamed assault had finally exposed the systemic problem. The TikTok viewer count hit 58,000. National news outlets were breaking into regular programming. Hashtag Skynova assault was trending globally. Agent Collins spoke carefully. Mr. Harris, sir, we were responding to crew reports. We followed standard protocol for disruptive passenger situations. Standard protocol for what? Daniel demanded. For a mother traveling alone with an infant? For a passenger who never raised her voice, never made demands, never resisted crew instructions. The marshals had no answer, because there was no justifiable answer. Monica kissed baby Lily's forehead and looked directly into the TikTok camera. For everyone watching this, remember that assumptions can destroy lives. Today, nearly 60,000 people witnessed what happens when prejudice meets accountability. The college student filming could barely breathe. This is the most insane thing I've ever seen. The CEO's wife just got assaulted by his own employees on live TV. Daniel's voice carried final authority. Flight 923 will remain grounded until every passenger deplanes and this aircraft is cleared for federal investigation. Ms. Parker and Captain Hayes, you're suspended immediately pending criminal charges. Parker finally broke, tears streaming down her face. Please, Mr. Harris, I have a family, a mortgage. I made a mistake. You made a choice, Monica corrected gently. Choices have consequences. Today, those consequences are very public. The video call revealed more executives entering the boardroom, federal investigators, aviation attorneys, crisis management specialists. The full weight of corporate and federal power was mobilizing in response to one viral assault. Daniel addressed the cabin directly. Ladies and gentlemen, you've witnessed something that happens far too often in aviation: discrimination based on assumptions. The difference today is that everyone saw it, everyone recorded it, and everyone will remember it. Baby Lily chose that moment to laugh, a pure, innocent sound that cut through the tension like sunlight through storm clouds. The merger announcement can wait, Daniel said, looking at his wife with obvious love and admiration. We have more important work to do first. Monica smiled at the camera, her dignity intact despite everything she'd endured. Change happens when power confronts prejudice publicly. Today, 60,000 people learned what real accountability looks like. The aircraft doors opened as federal investigators boarded, cameras flashing, documentation beginning. The woman they had tried to remove now owned their futures, and the whole world was watching. The boardroom video call transformed into a federal tribunal as investigators, attorneys, and aviation officials joined the conference. What had started as a family travel day was now a full-scale corporate crisis response witnessed by 63,000 livestream viewers. Daniel Harris's voice carried the weight of absolute corporate authority. Before we address individual consequences, let's establish the facts. Skynova Airlines generated $4.2 billion in revenue last year. Customer satisfaction ratings, 91% overall. He paused, letting the numbers sink in. Today's incident threatens our operating certificates, insurance coverage, and federal contracts worth approximately $800 million annually. Investigator Laura Mitchell from the Federal Aviation Administration appeared on the video call from Washington. Mr. Harris, preliminary review indicates multiple violations of CFR Title 14, Section 121.580, regarding passenger safety and crew conduct. Captain Hayes, still standing in the aircraft aisle, tried to maintain some dignity. Sir, with respect, Ms. Parker's actions don't reflect standard Skynova protocols. Don't they? Daniel cut him off sharply. Legal. Please share Captain Hayes's crew complaint history with everyone watching. James Porter, Skynova's head legal counsel, consulted his tablet with clinical precision. Captain Hayes has commanded crews involved in 7 discrimination complaints over 8 years. Average settlement per incident, $250,000. The number hit the cabin like a physical blow. Hayes had cost the company nearly $2 million in covered-up discrimination cases, and now 70,000 people knew it. Ms. Parker, Daniel continued, his voice growing colder, your employment record shows 3 previous incidents involving passengers of color. All resulted in corporate interventions and sensitivity training that you clearly ignored completely. Parker's voice cracked with desperation. Mr. Harris, those were different situations. This passenger was genuinely disruptive with her screaming baby. Was she? Monica interrupted quietly, still cradling baby Lily with maternal grace. Daniel, should I play the complete cabin audio recording for everyone? Every face in the aircraft went pale. Federal regulations required complete audio documentation of crew-passenger interactions, and they had all forgotten about the permanent record. Daniel nodded to someone off camera. Legal, cue the audio recording from initial boarding through the assault incident. The aircraft speakers crackled as the damning timeline played back chronologically. Parker's voice, "Control your screaming, brat, or I'll have security remove you both." The sharp crack of flesh meeting flesh. Parker, "Some people don't know how to travel appropriately." Parker, "People like you always try to upgrade illegally. I know every trick." Parker, "Your baby daddy isn't going to save you from federal aviation regulations." Each recorded phrase built a devastating case of premeditated discrimination and assault. The TikTok audience, now at 67,000 viewers, listened in shocked silence as the evidence mounted. Captain Hayes slumped against a seatback. The audio evidence was undeniable, and his vocal support of Parker's actions made him legally complicit in federal crimes. Investigator Mitchell continued her systematic assessment. "Mr. Harris, we're looking at potential violations under U.S. Code Title 49, Section 46504, interference with flight crew members. However, the crew appears to be the primary aggressor here." "Absolutely correct," Daniel replied with legal precision. "Our legal team has identified federal charges, including assault under federal jurisdiction, civil rights violations under Title 42, U.S. Code, Section 1983, and child endangerment in the presence of an infant." Agent Collins, who had remained silent during most of the revelations, finally spoke carefully. "Sir, we responded to crew reports in good faith. We had no knowledge this was discrimination rather than a legitimate safety concern." Daniel's expression softened slightly toward the federal agents. "Agent Collins, air marshals follow established protocols based on crew assessments. However, those protocols require independent verification of crew claims before escalating to physical force." He gestured to James Porter. "James, what's our comprehensive liability exposure if this incident goes to federal court with full media coverage?" Porter consulted multiple tablets, his calculations visible to the boardroom cameras. "Conservative estimate, $15 to $25 million in punitive damages, given the viral nature and documented emotional distress. That's before considering class action potential from previous victims coming forward." The business blogger in Seat 3C had switched from industry forum to Twitter, where his real-time updates were being retweeted thousands of times per minute. His latest post, Skynova Airline CEO's wife assaulted by crew on livestream. Federal investigation underway. Stock price down 8% in after-hours trading. The financial implications were staggering and immediate. Daniel addressed the entire aircraft through the speaker system with commanding authority. "Ladies and gentlemen, you've witnessed corporate accountability in real time. Ms. Parker and Captain Hayes are terminated immediately. Effective now." Parker's anguished scream echoed through the cabin. "You can't fire me for following established safety protocols." "Safety protocols?" Monica asked with devastating calm, her voice carrying maternal authority. "Ms. Parker, please cite the specific federal regulation that authorizes crew members to slap passengers holding infants." Complete silence. "Mr. Porter," Daniel continued with corporate efficiency, "please outline immediate consequences for both terminated employees." The legal counsel consulted his comprehensive notes. Ms. Parker faces federal assault charges with a mandatory minimum sentence of 6 months imprisonment under federal aviation law. Captain Hayes faced charges of enabling assault and willful failure to protect passenger safety. The severity of criminal consequences hit both employees like physical blows. Furthermore, Daniel continued relentlessly, both employees forfeit all benefits, pensions, and insurance coverage under our zero-tolerance discrimination policy. Professional certifications will be revoked by the FAA within 72 hours. Captain Hayes found his voice one final time, desperation clear. "Sir, 22 years of dedicated service to this airline. 22 years of systematically enabling discrimination," Daniel corrected with brutal honesty. Your service record shows a documented pattern of protecting crew members who violated passenger rights repeatedly. The TikTok livestream reached 71,000 viewers as major news outlets picked up the story. Skynova accountability was trending globally alongside #corporate justice and #airline discrimination. Investigator Laura Mitchell outlined systematic next steps. Mr. Harris, the Department of Transportation requires immediate implementation of enhanced crew training and comprehensive passenger protection protocols across all Skynova properties. Already in development, Daniel replied efficiently. Effective immediately, Skynova Airlines implements the Family Protection Protocol. Any crew member who physically contacts a passenger without direct safety justification faces immediate termination and federal charges. He clicked to a detailed presentation slide visible to the boardroom cameras. New mandatory training requirements, 40 hours of bias awareness, advanced de-escalation techniques, and comprehensive federal passenger rights education. Failure to complete successfully results in automatic certification loss. The scope of systematic reform was unprecedented in commercial aviation history. Ms. Parker, Daniel addressed his former employee directly, "You'll be escorted from this aircraft by federal marshals and formally charged with assault in federal court. Your discriminatory actions were witnessed by 71,000 people and permanently recorded by federal aviation cameras." Parker's legs gave out completely. Security officers moved to support her as the full weight of consequences crashed down. "Captain Hayes, your termination is effective immediately. Federal investigators will systematically review every flight you've commanded for potential civil rights violations over your entire career." Hayes nodded numbly, understanding his aviation career was permanently over. But Daniel wasn't finished with comprehensive systemic change. "Legal, announce our new comprehensive passenger Bill of Rights." James Porter read from extensively prepared documents. Skynova Airlines implements immediate passenger protections. Crew members cannot physically contact passengers without direct safety justification. All crew interactions must be recorded and reviewed by federal oversight. Discrimination complaints bypass local management completely and report directly to federal civil rights enforcement. The reforms went far beyond current industry standards, setting new benchmarks for passenger protection across commercial aviation. Agent Collins stepped forward respectfully. "Mr. Harris, what's the new protocol for federal air marshals in potential discrimination situations?" "Excellent question, Agent Collins. You and Agent Miller will receive comprehensive additional training on recognizing crew-initiated discrimination versus legitimate passenger threats." Daniel's approach emphasized systematic education over punitive punishment for law enforcement who had followed established but flawed protocols. The college student filming on TikTok could barely contain her excitement. 73,000 people are watching the most epic corporate accountability moment in aviation history. This CEO just fired his own employees for discriminating against his wife. Investigator Mitchell concluded her preliminary assessment. "Mr. Harris, Skynova Airlines' immediate response exceeds all federal requirements for discrimination incidents. The Department of Transportation will use this comprehensive approach as a model for industry-wide reform." Daniel looked directly at the cabin cameras, addressing the massive online audience. "Today proves definitively that discrimination has real consequences, public consequences, permanent consequences." He turned to Monica with obvious love and respect. "Sweetheart, are you ready to complete your trip?" Monica smiled, kissing baby Lily's forehead tenderly. "Actually, I think we'll take a different flight. This aircraft needs time to recover from today's lessons." The irony was perfect, the CEO's wife choosing not to fly on her husband's airline after being assaulted by his employees. "Understood completely," Daniel replied with supportive love. "Our corporate jet will be ready in 30 minutes. As federal marshals escorted Parker and Hayes from the aircraft in restraints, passengers sat in stunned silence. Their phones had captured history, but they had also documented their own complicity in cheering discrimination. The woman they'd assumed was entitled had owned the airline all along, and the whole world had learned what real power looked like when used for justice. Within 4 hours, Skynova Airlines underwent the most comprehensive transformation in aviation history. Federal marshals escorted Parker and Hayes through the terminal in handcuffs, their disgrace captured by news crews from 6 major networks. Parker's perp walk became iconic. The flight attendant who had slapped a CEO's wife now faced federal prosecution. Her mugshot, released within hours, showed a woman whose 8-year career had ended in criminal charges and industry blacklisting. Hayes followed in identical shame, his captain's stripes stripped before he reached the police car. 22 years of aviation authority reduced to federal defendant status, witnessed by millions online. The TikTok livestream, which had reached 89,000 viewers at its peak, became the most watched corporate accountability moment in social media history. The college student who had filmed it gained 2.3 million followers overnight. But the real change happened systematically and immediately. Skynova Airlines' emergency board meeting convened within 2 hours. Daniel Harris addressed shareholders via livestream, choosing transparency over damage control. Today's incident revealed systemic problems we can no longer ignore or settle quietly. Skynova Airlines will become the industry standard for passenger dignity and crew accountability. The Family Protection Protocol launched across all Skynova flights within 24 hours. New signage appeared in every aircraft. Every family belongs here. Respect first. Verification always. Crew training began immediately. Skynova contracted the American Justice Institute and the National Equality Alliance to develop bias awareness programs. Failure to complete training within 30 days resulted in automatic termination. The Passenger Bill of Rights became federal law within 6 months, sponsored by senators who had watched the viral incident. The Harris Standards required all U.S. airlines to implement similar protections. Investigator Mitchell later released preliminary findings that shocked the industry. The Skynova Airlines incident represents systemic discrimination patterns across commercial aviation. Immediate industry-wide reform is mandatory. Parker's federal trial began 3 months later. The prosecution's evidence was overwhelming. 89,000 witnesses, multiple camera angles, recorded audio, and federal aviation documentation. She received the maximum sentence, 18 months in federal prison plus 5 years probation. Hayes faced separate federal charges for enabling assault and violating passenger safety protocols. His conviction ended not just his career, but his pension, benefits, and industry reputation permanently. The financial impact was immediate and decisive. Skynova's stock initially dropped 11% but recovered within a week as investors recognized the company's proactive response. Competitors scrambled to implement similar reforms, fearing their own viral incidents. Corporate clients flocked to Skynova Airlines specifically because of the Harris Standards. Business travelers, particularly women and families of color, chose the airline that had demonstrated real accountability. Revenue increased 23% within 6 months. Customer satisfaction among diverse travelers reached 97%, the highest in industry history. Agents Collins and Miller underwent additional training and became advocates for recognizing crew-initiated discrimination. Their testimony helped reform federal law enforcement protocols on aircraft. The business blogger's real-time coverage earned him a Pulitzer Prize nomination. His documentation of systemic discrimination and immediate corporate accountability became required reading in business schools. But the most meaningful change was cultural. The phrase "people like you" disappeared from Skynova vocabulary. Crew members began interactions with, "How can I help your family travel comfortably?" Emily Brooks, the college student who had live-streamed the incident, used her viral fame to launch a civil rights documentary series. Her first film, 35,000 Feet, Discrimination in the Sky, won multiple awards and sparked federal legislation. The incident inspired the Airline Accountability Act, requiring public reporting of all discrimination complaints and mandatory bias training across the industry. No more quiet settlements. Transparency became legally mandated. Most importantly, families traveling with children reported dramatically improved experiences. The assumption shifted from problematic passengers to customers deserving assistance. Daniel and Monica Harris established the Family Travel Foundation, providing legal support for passengers facing airline discrimination. Within 2 years, they had handled 847 cases and achieved a 100% settlement rate. 6 months after the incident, Monica received the National Equality Alliance's Courage Award. Her acceptance speech was simple: dignity shouldn't require wealth or power. Today it doesn't, because everyone watched accountability happen in real time. The federal reforms spread internationally. European airlines adopted Harris standards voluntarily. Asian carriers implemented family protection protocols. Global aviation culture shifted toward passenger dignity. Parker's assault conviction became a permanent cautionary tale in crew training worldwide. Every new flight attendant learned about the consequences of discrimination through her example. Hayes's career destruction served a similar purpose for pilots. Command authority never justified enabling crew discrimination. The aircraft where the incident occurred was retrofitted with advanced recording equipment and bias detection technology. It became Skynova's flagship for demonstrating industry-leading passenger protection. Baby Lily, now walking and talking, traveled frequently with her parents. Flight crews competed to provide exceptional service to the family that had transformed their industry. The touching stories and real-life accounts that emerged proved individual courage could create systemic change. Monica's quiet strength in the face of public humiliation became a model for marginalized travelers everywhere. Aviation industry publications called it the Harris transformation, the moment commercial flight culture shifted from crew authority to passenger dignity. 2 years later, the Skynova Airlines incident became Columbia Business School's most studied case in crisis management and corporate accountability. The moment when quiet dignity defeated public discrimination inspired a generation of business leaders. Monica Harris's calm response under assault became required viewing in conflict resolution courses nationwide. Her refusal to escalate violence while protecting her daughter demonstrated that true power comes from principle, not position. Parker never worked in aviation again. Her federal conviction for assaulting a passenger became a permanent barrier to any customer service role. She took a warehouse job in rural Tennessee, her fall from authority complete and irreversible. Hayes's pilot license revocation ended his career at 54. No airline would hire a captain who had enabled crew assault. He became a cautionary tale whispered in aviation schools: command authority without moral courage destroys everything. But the real legacy lived in systemic change. The Harris standards became global aviation law. 17 countries adopted family protection protocols based on Skynova's reforms. Discrimination complaints across all airlines dropped 67% within 2 years. Emily Brooks's livestream generated 47 million total views across platforms. She leveraged her viral fame into a social justice documentary career, with her latest film exploring everyday discrimination in service industries. The financial transformation was remarkable. Skynova Airlines became the most profitable airline in America, with customer loyalty rates exceeding 94%. Diverse families specifically chose Skynova for travel knowing their dignity was protected. Life stories like Monica's proved that preparation, composure, and principles could overcome institutional prejudice. Her example showed millions of parents that they didn't have to accept public humiliation silently. These powerful stories of quiet strength triumphing over loud hatred resonated across communities worldwide. Monica's dignity under assault became a template for responding to discrimination with power rather than anger. Professional development programs cited her approach: strategic thinking over emotional reaction, systemic reform instead of personal revenge, using privilege constructively rather than destructively. The viral moment also inspired legislative action globally. The Global Aviation Alliance adopted passenger dignity standards based directly on Skynova's reforms. The United Nations referenced the incident in human rights discussions. Real-life stories like this demonstrate that individual courage can create institutional change. Monica's maternal protection of baby Lily while enduring public assault touched hearts across cultural boundaries. But perhaps the most meaningful impact was personal. Families of color no longer steeled themselves for airline confrontations. Children saw their parents' dignity protected by corporate policy rather than challenged by crew authority. The incident taught the world that discrimination has costs: immediate, public, and permanent. But it also demonstrated that accountability creates opportunity for genuine progress. Today, baby Lily travels frequently with her parents, welcomed by crews who compete to provide exceptional service. The child whose crying triggered discrimination now experiences aviation's new culture of family respect. Touching stories emerge daily of families protected by Harris standards. Parents share videos of flight crews offering assistance instead of assumptions, help instead of hostility. Have you ever faced discrimination while traveling with your family? Share your story in the comments below. Your voice matters, and change happens when parents speak truth together. If this story inspired you, please share it with someone who needs to see what's possible when dignity meets determination. Subscribe to the channel for more inspiring tales of family strength, resilience, and triumph that prove our community's power is unstoppable. Hit that notification bell, because every parent deserves respect regardless of who tries to shame them for loving their children.